Hey everyone, my name is Will King, and I did my presentation about Two Thoughts of Death by Countee Cullen. He was a poet from the Renaissance, and let's get this thing started. So, I'm going to share a few facts about Countee Cullen, alright? So, he was one of the biggest speakers and representatives of the Harlem Renaissance. He was raised by a primarily white family, brought up with like that group of people, but he grew up in the 1920s, and originally he was living with his grandmother, but when she passed away he was adopted by a reverend that took him in and allowed him to get an education and got him really in like the speaking craft. That's just more facts, just like when he was born, when he died, which he was actually born May 30th, 1903. Yep, and he died January 9th, 1946. There's more facts on there, but we don't have to get into depth on those. So, Two Thoughts of Death is a poem. Here, kind of can't see that, but it was a poem that he wrote, and the first part of it is basically about how he went ahead and was talking about how if he died, he wouldn't really care that much. He would basically wait for the one that he loved, and yeah, it was pretty sweet on that part. But the other half was about like if he committed suicide because he was a fool, and like how if he died, it would just be torturous, and basically it was more of the bland aspect instead of the nice aspect of death. And I mean, I'm not gonna I have the soapstone here to read it. The speaker was the man thinking about death, the occasion was two ways to go ahead and think about how death can be interpreted. The audience is other people that were thinking about death. Purpose was to show the two ways that death can occur and happen. The S was awaiting for his love as well as suicide. So that's what the theme was. And then the tone was just, for the first one it was kind of hopeful and happy, whereas the second one was more somber, upsetting, regretful and foolish. Next we have the song that I went ahead and did with it was Whiskey Lullaby by Alison Krauss and Brad Paisley. And this song is actually more towards the second part of it, where the suicide part, because originally the man that is singing in the song, he kills himself because he was a fool. The girl that he loved actually cheated on him, and so he was foolish and he drank himself to death basically, and he just killed himself. And then the girl, felt really bad and blamed herself forever, and then all the way to the point that she ended up doing the same thing, drinking herself to death and all that. And I have the soapstone here for it. So the speaker was the man that committed suicide, as well as the woman that committed suicide. There were two speakers. The occasion was, or the message, or occasion, is that death affects others. I mean, everyone that you knew, loved, cared about you, they are affected when you go ahead and die or commit suicide. The audience is, in this instance I wrote the woman that committed suicide, but for the woman, when she goes ahead and does it as well, it would probably be towards the person that finds her, or people in her life, and basically explaining why she did it, because it was just a sudden sort of thing, but she had a note written there. For the purpose, it's suicide suicide to cause issues with loved ones. So because he went ahead and committed suicide, she committed suicide, like a Romeo and Juliet sort of thing. For the theme, it's love can cause pain. I mean, it really can. Because the love wasn't working, he ended up killing himself because he just couldn't deal without it. And then the tone was sad, somber, and regretful because, yeah. I'm not going to show the video because we were saying in class not to. And, I mean, it's a nice song. I suggest it. I like it. For figurative language, I'm not going to read it, but I said idioms. They were found throughout both. I also did hyperboles, which were found throughout both of them as well. And the last one was imagery, because they were describing the different scenarios, and it was found in both yet again. The argument, yes, poems and songs, the poems from way back in the day and the songs that are written now are actually very similar, and they have a lot of the same things, the same messages, the same morals, the same stories. And it's actually really interesting to seeing that you can have a poem that was written hundreds of years ago, or even this one was just only 100 years ago, just over 100, and it can go ahead and have the same story, have the same meaning as a song that was written in 2007. It's just mind blowing. The Venn diagram, I have suicide due to. For 2 thoughts of death, I have suicide due to foolishness, as well as was looking forward to seeing loved one when he dies, and then also the flip side, him killing himself due to foolishness. For the both, I'm just gonna work left to right. For the both, it describes how people will react to others dying, committing suicide, and deaths in general. And then for the both, I did use hyperboles and idioms. I could have added imagery, but I just didn't. Whiskey Lullaby, I had suicide due to heartbreak, because that was one of the themes in there. And then proclaims that the only way that he can get rid of that heartbreak and that pain is by dying, which was not touched on in 2 Thoughts of Death. However, that's probably something that they would have said, but because it wasn't, I didn't put that in there for them. And this is my references. I have 3 of them there, and then I wasn't able to get the YouTube video for Whiskey Lullaby, but I have a YouTube video, but it wouldn't cite, so I figured I'd try my best. I have the link in there, and then I have a meme. I actually made this one myself, and it says, it's a picture of County Cullen, and it says, the face you make when even death asks if you're okay, and it worked. I thought it was dang, his face was and I'm yeah, I feel like that's a face you would make if death was hey, yeah, because he ain't looking too good. But yeah, that's my presentation, and hope y'all enjoyed. See y'all on Monday.